Hi, and welcome to this roundtable, the Clouded Perceptions Show. My name is Jessica Twentyman, and I'll be the moderator today. And I'm joined by Julian Donchev. Julian is Managing Director of Accenture's Oracle Technology Business for Europe. I'm also joined by journalist Scott Carey, who's editor at Computer World UK, by analyst Roy Ilsley from Ovum, and by Andrew Sutherland. Andrew is Senior Vice President of Oracle Systems and Technology Business in EMEA and Asia Pacific. The topic under discussion today is cloud adoption. The cloud today is clearly a far more mature platform than it was 10 years ago. But with so many different cloud consumption models to be considered, how on earth are companies deciding on their approach? Are the benefits they receive what they initially anticipated? And what are the key lessons learned that they would want to share with other cloud adopters? Just to start off then with this conversation, as I've said, it's a decade of cloud, and the demand for simplified, agile IT is pretty much a given now. But how, to your perception, have the drivers of cloud adoption changed? Let me start with you, Roy.
Well, what we're seeing now is the business is much more focused on the value it's going to get from technology investment and how that technology investment can be transparently shared across the organisation. So they've gone from the days of saying it costs X and that's what we're going to live with. It's now, how does that impact on my business? Where is that impacting on my business? And let's flow through and see where the costs and where the value is in that my business. So it's a much more mature view and driver of the driving of cloud now.
Fantastic. Scott, would you agree?
Yeah, I think on the perception point, for the last sort of decade, the cloud providers have been sort of talking about the security, the data governance aspects of this till they're blue in the face. But there's the really conservative organisations just haven't been willing to dive in until they've seen maybe some of their peers or some of the other organisations that have the same concerns that they do actually go in with some core applications, not just the stuff on the side. And now you're seeing that, you're seeing all of the major banks in the UK now adopt some form of public cloud.
You are, and there's a tipping point there, exactly as you say, Scott. The one I would add in the change that I've seen, and it's happening right now, is that I think a lot of the drive in the past for pretty much infrastructure cloud has been largely cost. I'm just going to do this cheaper, and it's going to be OPEX, not CAPEX. I don't need to invest so much. Brilliant. But now I'm really seeing, as the functionality of cloud increases, you're getting chatbots, you're getting mobile capability, the innovation potential of cloud is really coming into play. And that's a change. Yes, I can save money with cloud, so can my competitors, but I can use the cloud cleverly to innovate, to produce new applications, to get more customers for my mobile phone network, or people to buy via my shop or whatever, and I'll use cloud to do that more quickly than they can. So innovation, as well as the cost saving, is really coming in.
I'd like to turn to Julian in Helsinki. Julian, innovation through cloud, to what extent does that reflect your experiences of working with clients on a day-to-day basis?
What we've seen in Accenture in the past years is that in the beginning, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, clients were using cloud only for proof of concepts, or they were moving some non-critical applications, at most I would say some task-critical applications. But the biggest change, what we witnessed probably in the past couple of years, especially this year, is that clients are moving business critical and even mission critical applications to the cloud, which is really something. And the companies are even trying to get rid of their data centers. They're moving the whole data center to the cloud, switching off the lights eventually.
Now, this is a really important point, and I'd like to ask you about this, Roy. How, in your experience, are businesses prioritizing the migration of mission critical workloads, and what are they doing when it comes to the retirement of all that on-premise infrastructure?
Well, it's very interesting because our research this year has just shown that 2017 was the year of business productivity moving to the cloud. But 2018 is the year when databases, CRM, in ERP, and specific applications, and as Julian said, mission critical workloads are moving to the cloud. Now, the challenge that they've got is moving to the cloud. Do they pick it up? Do they put it into a SaaS application? Do they move it wholesale? Or do they rewrite it in a cloud native application? So the three choices that they've got impact on what they do with their current infrastructure on premise. If they're going to rewrite it into a cloud native application, they tend to go for the on-premise hybrid cloud which then allows them to move into the public cloud more easily. If they're actually going to use SaaS, they obviously just go straight into a SaaS cloud. And the use of public clouds is the one where they're struggling to see who can I work with, who can deliver the value I want, and who can make my workload actually function in a public cloud environment. So their on-premise stuff is still being debated as, do I keep it, do I lose it? But over the period of time, they will lose it.
Interesting. Scott, is that what CIOs are telling you in your work as a journalist?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, is that that's why you're seeing the rise of the platform as a service, because people want to be taken on that journey by the vendor. So they might start with a hybrid approach, or they might start with a SaaS application, or they might slowly start moving that CRM or that ERP into the cloud with that vendor. But they're not going to do it all in one go. It's not going to be a big bang. So if they can start to sort of consolidate around a certain technology platform and a certain cloud provider, that's going to ease that transition for them.
Fantastic. I'm going to turn back to Julian, because Julian, you were the person who raised this idea of the mission-critical workload moving to the cloud. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with clients in that area of working out which mission-critical workloads should move to the cloud first.
Well, we're seeing that internally, first in Accenture, we made some tests on how to move mission-critical applications to the cloud. We wanted to compare how, in the past, on-premise applications, how would they behave in the new public cloud environment. And what we witnessed was above our expectations. We noticed that moving and switching an application from one data center to another took us in average less than 20 seconds, which years ago with the on-premise application was unthinkable. Of even 20 minutes was impossible in the past. So the new architecture of the public cloud, and you take probably any vendor, is a proof that it's the solution for which customers and clients would go even with their business and mission critical applications. And we're seeing that they're moving even bigger workloads like CRM applications and big data warehouses. The cloud, that's probably where the clients will have everything in the next probably 5 years or so.
In any discussion of cloud adoption, 3 concerns always come up: security, skills, downtime. Have these largely been addressed at this point, and where are we now with those concerns? Scott?
Yeah, for me, I think yes, they have been sort of they've been eased or maybe sort of eradicated entirely. I think a lot of people now, and when I talk to sort of the bigger enterprises that have those big data and security concerns, they say that, we finally realised that cloud is more secure, if anything, than having it behind our firewall. What is the difficult part is moving those mission critical things from out of behind their firewall, because they just feel very uncomfortable with it. And that's always going to be the case. But I think, as I said earlier, once you start seeing the biggest and the most cautious organisations making that move, and nothing disastrous happens, then that's going to help the whole industry move forward.
Fantastic. Roy, does that make sense to you?
Yes, that makes sense to me. I think what I see as one of the biggest issues, though, is the sort of enterprise-grade quality of the cloud, because what people have seen over the last 18 months is some cloud providers out there have suffered some rather spectacular failures which are nothing to do with the organisation, and they've lost sort of connectivity and availability. So to a lot of enterprises, availability is now the king. Can that cloud provider provide me with a secure and available and enterprise-grade solution? That is important to me because, as Scott said, yes, security now is almost accepted as they are doing it as good as we can.
So, Andrew, as we've already discussed, cloud appears to be helping a lot of organisations in a lot of different industries. To your perception, are there particular industries that have been quicker to cloud?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a horizontal solution. It's like something like the internal combustion engine comes along, and if everybody can do with moving around the countryside faster, and cloud makes your IT more efficient. Everybody's got IT, everybody uses it. But like so many things in this world, some are more equal than others, and some need these savings more quickly than others. I'm thinking particularly of organisations on very narrow margins. So people like retailers, famous for their small margins, they really benefit. They have to move fast. Can they save a few pennies on running their IT? Yes, they can, using cloud. Go there. The other one I would mention, actually, is those who are close to consumers. In the modern world, how do you attract that next person to use your mobile phone network? How do you make them fly your airline rather than somebody else's? It's got to be new. There's got to be a different way of attracting people, a new update to your application. Again, back to this innovation agenda. You can't move that quickly if you're having to buy equipment, install software, develop this. If you can reuse services in cloud, get it into prototype quick, looks good, roll it out, then you've got that new thing for the consumer. Ergo, consumer-oriented organizations are moving very quickly to the cloud. That translates really to telco and finance, and as I mentioned earlier on, retail for different reasons. But overall, it is still a horizontal solution for everybody, really.
Fantastic. Julian, does that reflect your own experiences, your own work with clients?
Oh, absolutely. Exactly what Andrew said is what we witness in Accenture. Most of the clients who move to cloud are retail clients, banking clients, financial services, and probably some telcos, but probably the spread is horizontal. So retail is not much ahead of the other industries.
But the thing is, as that changes, as that expectation in the retail sector changes, you know, the people that are dealing direct with consumers, that has knock-on effects all the way down, and you're starting to see it filter down. And that's why logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, that's why they start moving to the cloud. It comes a little bit later, but they all have to adapt.
And there's many different factors driving that. There's the expectations. There's also increased use of platforms and cloud platforms around which these whole industries revolve, becoming cloud-based entirely.
The benefits of cloud are pretty obvious, I guess, now to IT teams. But what about elsewhere in the business? What about line of business managers? And what about sort of other senior execs? I'd like to ask you about that, Julian.
What we were thinking in the beginning of the adoption of cloud is that the benefits of cloud, public cloud, to be more clear to the IT department. And of course, in terms of performance and other features that cloud might bring, we were probably speculating that other parts of the business, like CEOs, CFOs, and business leaders, would not be so easily embracing the cloud. What we've seen in the past 1 or 2 years is exactly the opposite. They seem to comprehend very quickly and adopt the cloud benefits in terms of faster move to business, like go-to-market, building new business services through the public cloud, and also, of course, the financial benefits, the cost savings that the cloud would bring to the organization. So yes, we see the adoption of cloud among the business leaders as equally as in the IT departments.
Absolutely, Julian. You know, time to market, speed of innovation and cost are business issues that are answered by cloud. So absolutely, the business is extremely interested in what cloud can do. We know very many CIOs whose actual remuneration, their pay, their variable pay is based on the proportion of their estate which they effectively get into cloud. It's seen as a business issue and a business push.
A recent survey that I've seen suggests that around 60%, 6 out of 10 IT professionals believe very sincerely now that those companies that don't adopt cloud are simply going to fall behind in competitive terms. Now, I'm a cynic, but I'm interested to know what you guys think of that.
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. We've passed the point where cloud was thought, is this hype, is it nonsense? It's very clearly a very sensible technology. Again, I'm going to use the internal combustion engine example. You know, what if you're there saying, I've got a horse and cart, it did my father, my grandfather, fine, I'm not going to move to these new vehicles. Well, you go out of business. It would cost you far too much. You wouldn't be able to be as effective in your business. And that's just what's happening with cloud today. If you end up spending more money on on-premise compared with cloud, you then won't have the money to spend on the best staff, to invest in the best marketing campaigns. You won't be able to innovate so rapidly. It's going to be, and frankly already is, the de facto way in which we run our businesses.
Scott, could I ask you about that?
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me in there is the other 4 out of the 10. I mean,
Didn't,
yeah, it's
exactly.
the 40%.
Yeah.
You know, if I was that 40%, I'd be wanting to be updating my LinkedIn profile at this point, because you're just going to fall to the wayside.
Absolutely.
Another question for you, Scott, because I know that you're talking to CIOs on a very regular basis. Positive or negative, what do you think have been kind of the impacts of cloud on ways of working within IT teams themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it seems rote or maybe obvious at this point, but I think the rise of the DevOps culture has really started to take hold now, and it's sort of no longer a buzzword. It is sort of accepted practice within some of the biggest organizations. Have made that cultural shift now to Agile, to DevOps, to getting things to market quicker. And the only way you can do that is through cloud technology. It's completely shifted the culture of organizations. But what that has also done is it's flattened out the role of IT now, and now you've got IT working with specific product teams and different business units to get stuff out quicker. So it's more collaborative. And then you're also seeing that in the back office now as well. So you're seeing now with the move of CRM, of ERP, of even HR applications to the cloud, people are starting to collaborate better because they're all up to date. They're all communicating through cloud communication channels. And so that creativity and collaboration is a huge part of it.
Yeah, and adding to that one is that I was speaking on a stage with an online bank the other week, and the guy that I was talking to there was saying, we haven't got an IT department. We're born in the cloud company. So our engineers are part of the business functions, and they work with the business functions. And that's the future of how technology is going to be driven. It's driving the business. It moves from what Michael Porter called as being a supporting activity to being a part of the core business stream.
One of my final questions, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Andrew, is that whether it's software as a service or platform as a service or infrastructure as a service, there has to be this emphasis on service.
Absolutely.
And every company that has gone down this route that I've spoken to have told me, oh, get supplier selection right, get contract negotiation right, and manage that vendor once the contract is signed.
You're absolutely right. I think we're very open about this. This is not a product purchase, this is a service. I think very differently if I'm choosing between Hertz and Avis compared with BMW or Mercedes, it's a different thing. And this is a transformation for many organisations. I think when you're looking at the service, I would draw out two particular points with reflection on enterprise IT. And the first is exactly that, enterprise. Many cloud approaches have been born in the cloud aimed at the consumer and meeting the individual consumer's needs. That's super in enterprise as well, but the whole concept of an enterprise is you're working as a team. And you can't necessarily satisfy every individual's requirement without spoiling the process. So you've got to understand the needs of enterprise capability, not just security and reliability, but also in terms of governance, effectively. So look for experience with enterprise. And the other thing is critical mass, I think. You don't want fly-by-nights when you're taking a service. And for things like security especially, you're looking for somebody who can really invest very large amounts of time and effort and technology in making sure that things are secure and reliable. And that's not always easy to see. So again, I would relate it to other parts of our lives where you choose services. You want critical mass, you want roadside support. An awful lot of car analogies, I'm afraid. But that's the kind of the thing you should be looking for, at least I would suggest.
Roy, tell me about your conversations with Ovum's clients. How savvy are they getting at navigating this whole area?
They're getting very, very savvy because what they're looking for is they're looking for the relationship with the supplier. It's all about how they can get on with that supplier. And it's about understanding where the roles and responsibilities end and start with that supplier. Because as you've said, it's a service, and services have different components, and not everybody wants a one-size-fits-all component. Some people want to say, I'll be responsible for this part of the service, you do that part. And the contracts are very, very sort of non-standard. It's not a sort of, you buy this and you're getting that, it's vanilla. It's very down to what you want as a customer and what the supplier will deliver and how you work together. So we're finding relationships and trust as being two really key important elements in vendor selection.
Thanks, Roy. Julian, can I bring you in here?
Yes. So when you think of public cloud as a combination of SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS, software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service, some clients, they prefer to pick up on one and do the other part on premise, but most beneficial in terms of what we witness at Accenture is clients who embrace the whole pillar, the combination of SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. And probably that's the wise way to go, because eventually, as if I can quote Carnegie, the man who puts all his eggs in one basket and watches that basket is the wise person.
I think the thing I find interesting in this area is the way that the actual vendors have changed, the way that they sell software and services and infrastructure now. As it's become more of an engagement model. It's more of a partnership approach. And I was at the Modern Business Experience event that Safra was speaking at in February here in London. And she was saying that it's been a painful experience for a lot of the more traditional vendors because they've had to change the way they sell.
Yep.
And you no longer can go through a 4-month negotiation. Now it's very much we want to know what your goal is.
Absolutely.
Here's the service we can offer,
Essential
and
part.
that's how we take this forward.
part.
From the point of view of the consumer end of it, the CIOs, they're looking at these in terms of when do I need to change that service? So it's not I've bought this and there's a 5-year rundown on the cost of this piece of hardware. It's I've got this service, I will look to renew that in 12 months' time. So the time frames are changing as well. So expectations of what service quality you deliver will be measured in much shorter periods.
Exactly.
I'm conscious of the time. By way of winding things up here, I'd just like to turn to each and every one of you and just ask for a little piece of advice that you would pass on to a prospective cloud adopter. Scott, can I start with you?
Yeah, and I would maybe go slightly the other way from Julian in terms of the putting all your eggs in one basket. I think I'm seeing with a lot of modern enterprises now, they are starting to pick and choose their cloud provider, very much depending on what they want. So not just the pure play SaaS players, but also in terms of what each vendor brings to the table in terms of strengths and weaknesses. So, if you're trying to run analytics and machine learning, you might run that with one vendor. If you're trying to run your ERP and your CRM and your core back office enterprise stuff, you might want to run that with another vendor. It's basically seeing what you need to do and who the best vendor to serve that need is.
Roy?
Yeah, I agree with Scott there. It's about being strategic. Now look at the cloud in a more strategic sense. Pick the strategic suppliers for your needs. Don't just have any cloud, or where I disagree again is don't just have one cloud. What we're seeing is most customers are saying 2 or 3 clouds, and they pick those clouds for the right reasons, for the right attributes, and to deliver the right service quality that they need, but they're looking at them in a much shorter time frame to change. If you're not delivering, you don't get a 5-year period, you'll be out next week and moved to somewhere else.
Julian, what's your advice?
Well, I'll come with a very short piece of advice. I think clients, the faster they move to the cloud, the better their business will run in the near future.
Andrew?
That's good advice. Perhaps I'll close on a thought here, which is cloud is much more than just technology, odd coming from a technologist and a technology company, but it's much, much more than just technology. Cloud is a paint box, or it's a toolbox, and you can use it to create. And many of us got into technology when software was first created. You could build applications quickly and easily in software, much easier than you could in hardware. Cloud brings that back. We can now pull together speech recognition, artificial intelligence in minutes and days as opposed to months and years, and create new applications very, very quickly. It's not just about doing the same thing a little bit faster and cheaper. It's about doing whole new things with cloud.
Fantastic. That's a really positive note to end on. So thank you all for your participation today, and thank you for watching. There'll be a URL coming up on screen now where you'll find lots more information about cloud adoption, about some of the consumption models we've mentioned today, and also a stack of real-life use cases. Goodbye.